Hey y'all, I'm Angel. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is September 16th, 2006, and I too am a member of the Happy Hour group. It is a little nerve-wracking being up here. I mean, you would think we were the ones that had to tell our story tonight, but it's a lot of people you're looking at when you look out here. A lot. I have the honor and privilege of introducing our speaker tonight, and I've been kind of giddy about that this week. Just so you know, I do not consider myself a groupie. You know, that was somebody else's word. But I am definitely a fan, and I realized earlier this week when I was talking to somebody about, you know, the convention and what was going to be going on, and the fact that I was looking forward to meeting Ralph, that I described him as one of my two favorite all-time AA speakers. And in telling that, I realized a couple of things, like in the few minutes after that. One is that anytime I have a favorite AA speaker and I lend their CDs out, they never come back to me. Like, I always have to replace them. And the other thing that I realized is that that's kind of a strange thing to say about just another alcoholic, you know, that they're my favorite AA speaker. Because they're just people, you know, and they're just alcoholics like I am. And I guess what really occurred to me in thinking about that, in terms of somebody like Ralph, is that what that means is that person carries an extremely powerful message that touched me personally in a deep and effective way when I listened to it, because that person allows God to move in their life and to move in them and use them to help other people. That to me is what makes an awesome AA speaker, and that to me is what makes tonight's speaker one of my personal favorites. So I'm not going to take up his time. I give you Ralph.
My name is Ralph White, and I'm an alcoholic. I want to take you with me wherever I go. And I'm like, who is she talking about, you know? I'd like to thank the committee, especially Mimi, for the invitation, and Mimi and Brianna for coming and picking a brother up, and for most of you guys for the hospitality in Mississippi, Southern hospitality. When I go home, I will tell them it's real. You guys have fed me. You guys have welcomed me. I've had a chance to fellowship with a number of people out here. A couple of bittersweet pieces, though. You could have did a little bit differently on the schedule. And, you know, somebody out there might be thinking to themselves, in fact, a guy came up to me, you know, I want to be up in front of everybody and sharing. And you know, there are some things that come with that piece, which is it's better when the people that preceded you don't set the bar real high. You know, they'll always talk about there is no such thing as a bad AA speaker. Well, I'm a bad AA listener, because to me, it's some people that I ain't feel, you know, and you be in the line and somebody is telling them, ooh, that was that's just what I needed to, and you be like, don't be encouraging them. That ain't, you know, I'm the only one that's like that, you know. But this weekend, you know, I really enjoyed the Friday night speaker, Brett. And I've heard about our speakers today. I thought I had seen them before, realized I hadn't. And Miss Shirley and Bo. And you set the bar awfully high. And you brought us a message of Alcoholics Anonymous. And more than bringing us a message of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm grateful that you kept the light on for a drunk like me. And I'm humble. I'm humble. Traditionally, when we go out to places like this and do things like this, I still get humbled when I'm speaking behind my elders and a predecessor. I was raised right in AA, you know, and I still am grateful to walk in your footsteps. We're a storytelling society. Don't stop telling your stories. Don't stop telling your stories. I'm a kid that grew up reading, still read all the time. I was ready-made for you guys when I got here. I have a blind spot in my sponsorship, and one of my blind spots in my sponsorship is I don't understand people who don't like going to meetings. Meetings have never been hard for me. I'm not saying that it's not real. I'm saying that for me, meetings have not been hard for me. Because where can you find better stories than the stories that we tell in our meetings? I've always loved stories, man. And we tell them, you know, and you will hear people get up and they will say, we don't share alone, drunk alone. Everybody knows how to drink. But when I listened to this lady, and it made me think of when Ebby Thatcher called on Bill Wilson. We have some things that happened in our history that are seminal moments. And the first 12-step call for us, most of the time we recognize it as Bill Wilson calling on Dr. Bob Smith. But there was a 12-step call that took place before that, and it happened on Clinton Street in New York. And Ebby Thatcher in November of 1934 called on Bill Wilson. And he violated all the rules of a 12-step call. He started, and that's because he wasn't making a 12-step call. He was a member of the Oxford group, and the Oxford group of the day, when you were a member at a certain point in what it is that they did, you know, there was a time when the new member, after going through their indoctrination and their orientation and going through their process, now it's the time to go testify. It's time to go find somebody and witness. And Ebby Thatcher was that time for him. And he didn't know who to call. And he had a boy that he used to get down with in New York. And he said, I know who I'll call. I'll call Bill Wilson. Bill was drinking. A lot of us know the story, some of us don't. Bill was drinking in that November in 1934, and he was nursing a drink, and he was thinking to himself, he got a phone call from his boy. He hadn't seen in a long time, which is the reason he got a call, because everybody else he had burned out. Nobody was trying to fool with Bill, and so Ebby came through, and Bill was thinking to himself, an oasis in the desert. I'm going to have somebody to drink with, because Bill by now, he was a lone wolf. He was drinking by himself, and Ebby Thatcher came over to the house, and Bill was drinking. First violation of the way we think of doing a 12-step call. But something was going on in that house on Clinton Street. When you get the benefit of hindsight, which is the only time we can really evaluate these things we call miracles, or when we can really see the finger of God at work, when you in it, you just in it. You don't see that that's God working. You just see that, oh, I'm a guy drinking at the table. But when you look back, you see some things were taking place that wasn't supposed to take place. So Ebby Thatcher came over to Bill Wilson's house, and first thing Bill noticed, he called him fresh-faced and glowing. Something different about him. He said it was something different about him. Oh, but he let him in the house, right? And they start talking. And Bill is drinking. Ebby talking. And Bill offered Ebby a drink, and Ebby said, I'm cool. I'm not drinking. Bill said, oh, what is going on with? He said, old boy was not himself. I've been getting loaded with you so long, you think I'm not me when I turn it down, right? He said he wasn't himself. And then Bill said this. He said, okay. He said, Ebby, talk to me, dude. What's going on? Ebby said, I got religion. Bill said, oh, my God, I done let a Jehovah's Witness up in here when I'm drinking, and he going to mess up my high. I'm not trying to do that. But Bill said, check this out. But I'm cool. I got my alcohol. My drinking is going to outlast his preaching, right? He already and Ebby didn't do no preaching. Ebby didn't do no preaching. And check this out. This is the other thing that went on. If you read that story, Bill says, okay, I'm cool. I would have put him out right then after I would have tried to hit him up for some money, right? And then I would have put him out right then. Bill said, Ebby sat for hours. Read that piece. Bill ain't hearing nothing Ebby's saying. Bill starts thinking he starts reminiscing. He starts reminiscing about his granddad. He starts reminiscing about growing up in church. He starts reminiscing about this God idea that he thought he had left far behind. When Shirley was sharing her story about her mama, and she was sharing her story about her mama on the bus, and she was sharing her story about her not having a car and her mama not having no money and raising these kids. She was Ebby, I was Bill. I started reminiscing. She took me to a place. It's something that happens when one of us is talking to one. It's something that goes on. We can't put a word on it. We can't frame what. Something goes on. Keep telling your story. Keep telling your story. Because she ain't who she looked like. When she gets up here, I said, what's this old soccer mom doing coming up in here to talk to us? You know, she looked like a nice grandmother that's baking cookies for the PTA, and then she started talking. And I'm like, oh, stay with us, please, you know. And that's the power of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, over the course of the weekend, you've heard some speakers come up in here and share. You saw a powerful sponsorship workshop. You'll hear something else in the morning. I don't know what you'll get tonight, but there'll be a lot of stuff that'll go on. And Alcoholics Anonymous, when we go to our meetings, there's a lot of information that's disseminated, you know, and that's cool. You know, that's really okay, you know, because we need to find out about our program of recovery. We need to share that information with new friends. We need to renew it with each other, you know, so that's cool, this dissemination of information. But that's not the power of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's not really the real power of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's cool to get the information, but stay for the transformation. There's transformational things that go on, and I can't appreciate the transformation if I don't know where you come from. It don't mean nothing to me where you are today if I don't know where you come from. And where I come from is 108th and Central. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I grew up in the heart of Watts. I'm one of 6 boys. We stayed in a little 2-bedroom apartment. Moms and pops stayed in one room. 6 boys stayed in 3 bunk beds in the other room. Earliest memory of my own man was he was an alcoholic, and I didn't want to be like him. My father wasn't abusive, and he wasn't violent. He was an absentee drunk. And every other Friday, you knew he would not show up with a check. Be a kid in the neighborhood, tell my family how my old man had performed up at the pool hall, and I feel ashamed and I feel embarrassed, and those are feelings I'm familiar with from a very early age. My pops got put out when I was 9 or 10 years old. Mom started raising these 6 boys by herself. I don't know about you, but when I grew up, ideal family life, you took it from the TV programs of the day. And the TV programs that showed ideal families when I was growing up, Ozzie and Harriet, Father Knows Best, My 3 Sons, Donna Reed, you Leave It to Beaver. Bet that wasn't jumping off in my house. When you're grown, you get something that's called perspective. Perspective works like this. You got a mom that raised 6 boys by herself. My mom was on welfare back in the 60s, old Southern Baptist sister. My mother grew up out here. Cleveland, Mississippi. Immigrated to Los Angeles in about 1949, 1950. So in the 60s, my mom was on welfare in Los Angeles, raising 6 boys by herself. And my mom refused to settle for a lot, and she put herself back through high school, and she put herself through college, and she worked 2 jobs, and she took in clothes that she washed and ironed for other folk. And when you're grown, you look back on your life and say, damn, I had a hell of a mom. Look how she sacrificed to raise her boys. But when you're a kid about 9 or 10 years old, and you coming home from school on a Wednesday afternoon, and you hit the front door, and mom's is in the living room with an ironing board up and a rag on her head, you don't feel proud. You feel ashamed and embarrassed, and you stop bringing partners home from school. And if your name is Ralph, you start living in the prison I've lived in much of my life, and that's the prison of what I think you think about me. I don't know what you think about me, but I'm trapped in what I think you think about me, and I will do whatever it takes to shape and mold and form your opinion of Ralph. I'll wine you, I'll dine you, I'll woo you, I'll con you, I'll bully you, I'll manipulate you, I'll buy you. Please like me. Now, I don't particularly have to like your behind, but please like me. You know, so I'm growing up like this. Check this out. This is why we tell our stories, you know, because there is no one portrait of the alcoholic. My brother Ron is a year younger than me in life, 3 months older than me in recovery. We slept in the same bed, literally, his feet to my head, vice versa. And when you hear Ronnie tell his story, you know, Ronnie always wanted to be somewhere else, doing something else, you know, and wanted to be somebody else. You know, same environment, same house, totally different perspective. I, on the other hand, could not imagine being anybody other than me. I couldn't imagine being anybody other than a young brother growing up in Watts in the 60s. You know, it was a changing time, it was a turbulent, and I was going to be somebody, and I was going to make something out, you know, and I was going to make my mom proud, you know, and I was going to be an asset to my community. So I'm growing up, and the reason I share that You know, because a lot of times we get confused about what it is to be alcoholic. And I'm here to share with you guys tonight that the reason I'm alcoholic, I'm not an alcoholic because my daddy was an alcoholic. Somebody in this room grew up with parents that never touched it. I'm not an alcoholic because I grew up as a product of a broken home. Somebody in here grew up with both parents in the house. I'm not an alcoholic because we didn't have no money. Somebody in here grew up with a silver spoon. I'm not an alcoholic because I'm a poor kid from the ghetto. Look around the room. You know that ain't the only reason I'm an alcoholic. I ain't an alcoholic because I'm a little guy. Some big guys up in here. I'm an alcoholic for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only. One, when I take one, I can't tell you when I'm going to stop. 2, when I sincerely don't want to put it up in me and start it up again, I put it up in me and start it up again anyway. I'm bodily and mentally different. That's it. That's all. The rest is my story. My story go a little bit like this. Every single one of you had me in your classroom. I was usually class president or student body president. I was a straight A student. I was teacher's pet. I played ball. I made all-stars. On the outside, I should have been okay. On the inside, I've always felt like if you really knew me, you wouldn't like me. Yeah, I was teacher's pet. Yeah, I was straight A student. Would have traded it all in if I could have been cool. If I just could have been cool, because in my neighborhood, there was a whole lot more currency placed on cool than on smart. Because the cats who was cool, I see some of you sitting in here right now, J.W. I see you. You know, the ones who was cool was the ones in the bathroom smoking cigarettes, shooting dice, taking quarters from guys like me that brought extra quarters with them. And you knew how to talk to girls, and girls were a mystery to me. Fellas, I don't know why it is the rest of you guys always had a handle on this manhood thing early. 13 years old, cats would be talking about throwing down with girls already. I didn't know y'all were lying, but I would be thinking to myself, how come I don't know? You know, how come it took me a minute to get comfortable telling my story in the rooms at Alcoholics Anonymous, because this is the first place I landed where folk try to out-bottom each other, right? And I wanted a penitentiary story without visiting the pen to get one. You know, but my story's my story. I'm not willing to go get another one. I'm a shy guy, I'm square, and I'm scared of girls. And I'm 16 years old, and I ain't touched nothing. I get a girlfriend at 16. Ralph with a girlfriend don't mean the same thing it means for some of you cats. Ralph with a girlfriend at 16 simply means this. Ran with a crew of dudes, went with the same group of girls. One of my boys broke up with this girl, waited a little time to pass, told my other boy I want to go with her. He went and asked her, came back and told me. She said, yeah, now I got a girlfriend, right? I'd had other girlfriends before, but this one actually knew she was my girlfriend, right? But I'm scared of her. I don't do too much with her. This is my official girlfriend, right? I don't do too much with her. But this particular night, I go out on a double date. Me and my girl in the back seat, older partner of mine, him and his girl in the front seat. He driving. Plastic cup of rum and Coke come to the back seat this particular night. Drank it down real warm, rushed back to the top of my brain. All of a sudden, Ralph's hands started doing things they had never done. Mouth started saying things it had never said. I'd arrived. Alcohol did for me what I couldn't do for myself. Gave me the courage to do and to be and to say things I wouldn't do, be, and say without, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous talks about me in a lot of places. New Friends, we have a chapter in the front of our book called The Doctor's Opinion. And there's a line in The Doctor's Opinion that jumped out at me first time I read it. Men and women like me drink essentially for the effect produced by alcohol. I recognized that first time I read it. I'm not overnight alcoholic. You know, I understand we talk about this disease being progressive in nature. A lot of times you'll hear a lot of our members come up and share. You've heard it this weekend. And they'll share from the very first drink. It was magical. It was transcendent. I made a commitment. I'm going to drink for the rest of my life. It wasn't like that for me. That first time I drank, you know, I understand it being progressive in nature. It was all right. You know, I got a warm, tipsy feeling. You know, I didn't throw up all over myself. I didn't make a fool out of myself. You know, got a warm, tipsy feeling, kissed and licked and sucked on my girl in some places that I had never done before. And that's how my drinking stayed. I would drink to go out on the weekends and party. Graduated from high school in 71, graduated to higher education in every sense of the word. 71, I'm still just drinking to go to parties on the weekend. By the end of 71, I'm drinking not only the night of the weekend, but I'm drinking during the day to get ready for the party that night. By 1972, I'm drinking not only on the weekends, but now I'm drinking during the week after class, and I've added some non-addictive marijuana to the mix. By the end of 72, I'm drinking and I'm smoking herb and I'm selling herb. By 1973, I'm drinking, I'm smoking herb, I'm I'm selling herb, I'm doing other drugs, I'm doing it on a daily basis, and you could not have told me it was anything wrong with the way I was living. Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous talks about at a certain point in my drinking career, I won't be able to tell the truth from the false. And the way that worked for me was this. Isn't the way that I'm doing it, isn't that the way everybody does it? Why would you be young, with a bright future, with a little bit of money, didn't chase a woman and getting low to come with the territory? In those days, man, if you came over my house and I couldn't offer you something to drink or something to smoke, I wasn't being a good host. And if I went over your house and you didn't do the same for me, not only weren't you being a good host, wasn't coming over your house no more. You know, for what? Ain't got nothing to talk about, you know. No disrespect to our young friends. I don't mean new friends, young friends. I'm glad I grew up in the era I grew up. I'm glad I came up when I came up. You know, back in the late 60s and the early 70s, man, you go to a concert, you didn't even have to know your neighbor. You just pass and stuff. You know, in 2018, we got to practice safe sex. You got deadly sexually transmitted disease. You got all kind of stuff. Man, back then in the late 60s, early 70s, man, it seemed like a simpler time in some ways, even though it was a crazier time. I would go to a club back in those days, I'd have a one-question interview for a girl. You get high? If not, next, I don't want to know your last name. I don't need to know your sign. I don't need to know nothing. Let's get down to the basis of this relationship. Are you getting down like I'm getting down? And that's just the way that it was. Check this out. I'm going to go over here for a minute. I'm going to come back. I promise. You know, I came to the program 4 times before I came this day. And for our new friends, there are some thin lines in Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of the thinnest lines that makes most of the difference, there's a thin line between comparing and identifying. In my early efforts at doing this thing, I would always compare and I would never identify. And I couldn't find myself in the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous, and I couldn't find myself in any of you guys' stories. I would read the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous, I read Bill's story. First thing I say, Bill is an older white guy. Miss me on that. Bill was a Wall Street stockbroker. Check out the way I handle money. You know, Bill was a veteran of foreign wars, Vietnam era draft dodger. If you read Bill's story, he had a line in there where he said there had been no real infidelity. Miss me on that one too. You know, and I would always find all the differences. I do that when I listen to you guys' stories. And when I came back to Alcoholics Anonymous to stay, somebody taught me how to read the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous. And they said, Ralph, the same way that you read the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous is the same way you listen to our members share at our meetings. When you read the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous, and when you listen to our members share their experience, strength, and hope, ask yourself 3 or 4 questions. Ask yourself, did I drink like he drank? Did I think like he thought? Did I feel like he felt? Or did I do what he did? And when I read Bill's story in the light of those questions, I found my story. I'm at this major university, and just like Bill, the drive for success was on. I proved to the world I was important. Just like him, drinks started taking a more important and exhilarating part in my life. Bill in his story said something strange. He said out of this alloy of drink and speculation, out of this combination of his thinking and his drinking, he would later forge a weapon that would turn on him like a boomerang and all but cut him to ribbons. I don't talk like that. Where I come from, old folk had a shortcut version. They just used to say, trouble always starts out like fun. And when I'm living up in the dorms, drinking that Red Mountain, drinking that Annie Green Spring, drinking that Yago, drinking that Tyrolia, drinking that Spinata, drinking that Brass Monkey, drinking that Southern Cup, when I'm up in the, you couldn't have told me alcohol was going to have its way with me. But it did what it is that it does, and I stumbled up out of that school some kind of way, and I started working as a counselor for LA City Schools. Although I had the kind of job that should have allowed me to acquire what normal people acquire, I never did that. Snapshot of Ralph's life, this is when alcohol was working. I buy a car, I make exactly 3 car payments, then come find it. Come find it. First time I had a car repossessed, I had the nerve to call LAPD. I'm 9 months behind on the note, right? Next 2 times I didn't even trip, they already knew. I'm the kind of brother that never had a problem balancing a bank book. Payday, I got money. 2 days later, broke. 0, no problem balancing my bank book. Stayed in the crib from 1976 to 1979 without paying rent. A couple of baffling features about the disease I suffer from. One of them is this. I can't see my relationship with alcohol until I'm free of it. I can't see what it's doing to me when I'm in the mix. So some of the things that are crystal clear to me now, looking back in the rearview mirror of experience, were not at all clear to me when I was going through it. One fact stands out real clear to me about the days I thought alcohol was working. I used to go to work for 2 weeks to live for 2 days. That's it. That's all. Can't tell you the day or the time or the hour. Can't tell you where I was or what I was doing when alcohol ceased to be a luxury for me and became a necessity. I can tell you that it did happen to me. Anybody else in here, you know what I don't like about the invisible line? It's invisible. It ain't nothing to say, if you take this next one, you enter in the region from which is known. In fact, the cold thing about this disease I suffer from, I was talking to my boy, I was talking to Tony, and Tony went and he had, and he had a bone marrow transplant, and I said, what happened, Tony? How did they notice that you needed to have this? He said he went for a regular checkup, and they discovered this. And the thing about me and you, the thing about people like us, if you got that thing, you can go for a regular checkup, and it ain't going to show up on an x-ray. You can go for a regular checkup, and they ain't going to find no evidence. There is nothing that's going to say, when Ralph White takes this next one, cold thing about the disease I suffer from, In fact, this deal about the invisible line, by the time I realize I'm way over here. Who put this line back? The cold thing about the disease I suffer from is this. By the time I realize I have a problem and need to do something about it, it's already too late for me to do something about it. Anybody else play the regret game in Alcoholics Anonymous? A couple of nodders. The regret game in Alcoholics Anonymous goes something like this. If I only knew then what I know now, I never would have. Yeah, right. Remind me of a story I like to tell, a story about a little boy named Johnny. Johnny had a habit his father frowned on. Johnny used to like to play with himself. Father goes to work one day, comes home real early. Little Johnny's bedroom door is closed. Father opens the door without knocking. Sure enough, little Johnny's in the bedroom masturbating. Father looks at him and says, son, I thought I told you if you keep doing that, you'll go blind. And little Johnny stopped and looked at his dad and said, well, Daddy, can I just do it till I need glasses? And I like that story because that story reminds me of me in the life. And I see you going down, you going down, you going down. I'm just going to do it till I need glass. Book talks about seeking the Lord companion. It wasn't long before I became the Lord companion. We ain't got enough time. Got married on a Saturday afternoon in April of 1980. Had a bachelor party the night before my wedding. None of the guys at the bachelor party are getting married the next day. All of them have sense enough to go home at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm still at my bachelor till 7:30 in the morning, right? Me and my brothers. Take me home at 7:30, get me up at 10 o'clock for my 1 o'clock wedding. I'm toe up. I'm supposed to say my own vows at this wedding, right? They get me up at 10 o'clock for the 1 o'clock wedding. I get to the wedding, and apparently when I show up, I'm staggering so severely that my then wife-to-be took one look at me and took a look at the preacher and said, okay, scratch their own vows, say the regular on him, right? So now my lines are cut to 2 words. Getting to the ceremony, it gets to me, I get ready to say, I do. I said, and threw up all over. Passed out. Have not taken a wedding picture to this day. Pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. New friends, if you're anything like me, when I first hit the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, although the words that they use in the rooms are not unfamiliar to me, the way you guys use them is not the way I use them in my everyday walk-around vocabulary. I needed some help with some of them. You guys were talking about a psychic change, this phenomena of craving, this allergy of the body, and the way you used them was not the way I was familiar with. I needed some help with those. But the first time I heard pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization, didn't need no help with that one. Folk like us don't need a dictionary for pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I live pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization up close and personal. And I lived it over and over and over again. See, I'm the kind of father and I'm the kind of husband. Remember sitting on my living room couch. Wife coming out the bathroom real fast, pulling her pants up. Go to the dining room table, pick her purse up off the table, clutch it real close as she went back to the bathroom. I feel this tall because nobody was in the house but me and her. It got like that in my house. I'm the kind of father and I'm the kind of husband. Remember coming home, sticking my key in the door. Wife and 2-year-old daughter sitting here and they both crying. I look over here and homeboy sitting in my seat. He's got a gun pointed at my stomach, talking about I want my money right now. Fellas, let me holler at you guys for just a minute. Don't know about the rest of you, but I always had a lot of fears and a lot of doubts about, do I have what it takes to be a father? Do I have what it takes to be a husband? Because if you're in the life, your track record already gives you your answer right. Because what's the father's role and what's the husband's role? To protect and to provide, and it's a cold-blooded feeling, fellas. Laying in bed with a woman night after night after night after night. Knowing not only aren't you protecting, knowing not only aren't you providing, you the one bringing the wolf to the door. See, I'm the kind of father and I'm the kind of husband. Remember sitting on my back porch, 2-year-old daughter coming outside pulling in my coat. Daddy, daddy, that's my piggy bank. I remember stopping, giving her a little grin. Don't worry, baby. Daddy's going to put some dollar bills in here for this change. And I wasn't raised to be stealing from my daughter. I wasn't raised to be stealing from my wife. I was an alcoholic with no tools of recovery. And I did what it took to get what I needed to get. Share with you that my disease is progressive in nature, and in my experience, it's progressive in a couple of areas. Share one already. Takes more than it used to take in order for me to get the same effect. But my disease is progressive in another area, my behavior. My behavior gets progressively worse. I'm willing to do more readily, to chase this thing. First time I hit my wife's purse, if you would hook me up to a polygraph, I would have passed when I told you, I'm not stealing this $40. I'm going to take this money and I'm going to replace it before she knows it's missing minute. Because I don't steal. I don't know if it amazes you like it amazes me still, those of us who read the big book Alcoholics Anonymous. But sometimes I still get chills. When I think about what it is that has us together here tonight. Share with you about that visit from Bill Wilson's partner to Bill in November of 34, and in December he found himself in Towns Hospital for the third or fourth time. And something happened to him that December in 1934, and it was so astounding, it scared him. I know we have some new friends here. I don't know how many new friends we have. But I saw this table last night. And our co-founder, Bill Wilson, was in a hospital in December of 1934. Same hospital he had been in a few times. He had an experience in that hospital in the middle of the night, and it scared him. White light came. The experience was so powerful, he told the doctor the next day, he described it to him. Check this out. From the outside looking in. It didn't even happen to the doctor. But Bill Wilson described what happened to him to the doctor, and Dr. Silkworth said, dude, I don't know what it is that happened to you, but you would look good holding on to it. And Bill Wilson left Towns Hospital that December in 1934, and he set about looking for people like me and you. And in 6 months' time, he had gone through about 96 people, and wasn't nobody staying sober. Preaching to him, you got to have this white light. Oh, dude, you messing up my high. Keep it moving, you know. They tell him, keep going. And Bill, he's preaching, right? And in that 6 months period of time, he stayed sober. And some of his people he used to do business with put together a business opportunity. And they said, we want you to represent us in Akron, Ohio. Don't come back if the business don't come off too well. And Bill Wilson went off to Akron, Ohio. They said, if this business comes off well, you'll be set. Would have been vice president of the company, would have been making a big gang of money, and he needed to be set. And he goes off to Akron, Ohio, and his business does not come off too well. And he found himself in a hotel lobby. And in that hotel lobby that night, he got thirsty. Could see the bar from where he was standing. Could hear the ice clinking in the glasses. And a strange thought came. He said, I need to find a drunk not to drink. Ain't never had a thought like that. Who would put something like that in my head? I done looked for many a drunk, never not to drink, you know. And he said, I need to find a drunk not to drink. And through a series of divine coincidences, he got put in touch with a lady who had a friend, who had a husband like us. And Bill Wilson made the call, and he talked to Ann Smith on the phone, day before Mother's Day. He said, I understand you got a husband with a drinking problem. Like to talk to him. Dr. Bob was passed out. Series of coincidences. But he didn't want to, but he came in passed out. And it was Mother's Day the next day. He knew he was in the doghouse. Check out what goes on. The finger of God. So he told his old lady, tell dude I'll give him 15 minutes. Instead of telling him, man, I don't want to talk to him, he in the doghouse. He said, tell dude I'll talk to him tomorrow. We'll give him 15 minutes, and then we'll have to split. They met that next day, and that 15 minutes turned into about 5 hours. Met at 5 o'clock. They left at 11 o'clock. And they said, and those two gentlemen set about looking for people like me and you. In about 2 years' time, they found about 40 people staying sober. And I like to think that the New York hustler must have looked at the Akron physician and said to him, how are we going to let Ralph White know when it's his turn? And they said, we'll put it in a book. And they put me in that book. That still just, that blows me away. They put me in, they started writing that book in 1937. They published that book in 1939. I didn't hit this earth till after that, and I hit you guys after, and they put me in that book. 2 weeks after I said, I'm going to replace this money before she knows it's missing, I'm out doing what I do. And there's a line in the book that describes me to a T. We don't know why, but a certain time, alcoholic would be unable to recall with sufficient force pain, suffering, humiliation, weeks, even days ago. The idea of replacing the money didn't even come to mind. It got replaced with a new thought. I said, last time I took 40 and she moved the purse. This time I'll take all the money out the purse, and that I don't spend up, I'll sneak it back in the purse. Often running to hit my wife's purse on a regular basis. I did it one too many times. I came home one morning, screen door was locked, a note was on the screen. The rest of your stuff is at your mama's house. Suitcase on the porch, I'm put out of my house, I'm now my daddy. I go to stay at my mom's house, and over the course of the next year, my 5 brothers got put out their respective homes. All of us ended up at my mama's house, and we damn near killed her. When I got put out of my house and went to stay at my mom's house, my ex-wife thought it was something salvageable about this piece of man she married. And she would bring my daughter over on Saturday so we could keep a father-daughter relationship. And I wanted to be a father to my little girl with everything in me. I really, really, really did. I wanted to take my girl to Disneyland, and I wanted to take her to Magic Mountain. I wanted to take her to a movie on a Saturday afternoon. I wanted to walk up the street with her little hand in my big hand, take her to the store and buy her some ice cream. I wanted to sit there in my lap and read stories to her. I wanted to tuck her in bed at night and get a good night kiss. I wanted to get the look from my little girl that I've seen men in the fellowship get. The look like, this is my daddy and this is my hero. And the best I could do on those Saturdays was 30 minutes. 30 minutes. Tell my mom something like I'm going to the store to buy Rain some ice cream. I disappear. Sneak back on Sunday night when her mom was coming to get her. Can still remember some of them long Sunday nights, sticking my head around the side of my mom's house, tears flowing. And through the tears, I see those 2 heads in the car and those headlights backing out the driveway, and I be thinking to myself, there goes my life, backing out this driveway. And I've heard a lot of people share they were scared of dying out there, not my story. Never scared of dying, scared I was going to keep waking up to the same old thing. Monday, the same as Tuesday, the same as Sunday, the same as Christmas, over and over and over again. And I'm so glad God don't make misery comfortable. And on October the 11th, 1986, I got miserable enough. I got tired enough. I got directed to my 4th program of recovery. I don't know what it... For me, it's two categories of people who give talks in AA, and I like them. I kind of like them both. You got your head sharers. Talk about the what you need to be doing, how you need to do it. Give us information on stuff, and that's cool because I'm a head guy. I'm a figure outer. I'm an analyzer. I like to know that. And then you got your heart sharers. In my home group, there was a brother named Brother, and Brother used to say, when heart speaks, heart hears. And in AA, we speak the language of the heart. So when you get Ralph White, I don't even know where I'm going, so it ain't no way for you to know. So, when I was talking about, and on October 11th, 1986, I got directed to my fourth program, Recovery. There's a point when everybody's talking. There's just a point that just grabs me. Last night, Shirley talked about calling that treatment center. And Bo put me in the car. When you get to your what happened, you still grab me. You still grab me when you get to your what happened. When you talk about Labor Day showing up at that conference, you still get me. I fall in love with this program all over again. I'm better with you than I am by myself. That's why I still come to you 31 years later. I'm better with you than I am by myself. That's why we tell ourselves, you still get me there. And I walked up into the Harbor Life Center October 11th, 1986. And that October 1986, I was in a real dark place and I was in a real bad way. I was full of remorse and I was full of regret. I'll never be able to forgive myself for the things I had done and what I had become. That October in 1986, man. Because our stories disclose in a general way. And that's all it is. It don't get a whole picture. Because my life, I had a lot of successes and then I had some down. In 1985, I had found my dream job. The cool thing about me, the book describes me in so many places, and it talks about the alcoholic more than most people leads a double life. And I'm the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde guy. I am I'm business guy by day and I'm vampire by night. I'm working in a major utility company and I'm working in management. And I had a job that allowed me to have an office, and I had a big glass window in my office, and it allowed me to look out on the workforce of about 80 people. The downside of that is it allowed that workforce to look in on my ass, and they would be looking. And it's a cold thing when you be coming off an 8-day run or something, and you come to work and you do that thing, and you look to see if anybody looking, and everybody's looking. And the cold thing about being Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, business everybody, the vampire. So I'm a vampire by night and business guy by day, and the vampire always outgrows the businessman. The vampire always outgrows the housewife. The vampire always outgrows the school teacher. The vampire always outgrows the soccer mom. And pretty soon the vampire starts coming to work. And they don't pay the vampire to come to work, and the vampire don't work at work. So they told the vampire, you got to go and do what you lost my dream job. And from 1985 to 1986, I'm walking the aimless walk. I'm walking the aimless walk. I'm one of the ones in the street you're going to find on a Saturday night. That's where you'll find me. I'm walking the aimless walk. And I'm a guy who had dreams and goals and ambitions, and I'm walking the aimless walk. I've never been in the military, but I'm walking. You would have swore I had been in because I'm walking the grid. I'm walking up here all the way to Vermont to 65th, up to Normandy and back to Vermont. I'm walking the grid. I'm walking the walk. I come from that dark place. And it's October in 1986, and they brought a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous into the facility the first weekend I was in there. And they brought us to a meeting, and a speaker was standing up in front of the group that night, somewhat like I am tonight. And he was sharing about taking from the job, and he was sharing about taking from the family. And I remember looking at him and thinking to myself, yeah, you sharing about doing scandalous things, but you look scandalous. You should have been doing that. I'm different. Y'all ain't going to hear my business. And the speaker seemed like he knew I was in the room. He read my mail. He dropped something on me like this. He said, if you're sitting in this room right now, you are not responsible for your disease, but you are responsible for your recovery. And you are just now tapped into a source of power much greater than yourself. And you don't have to drink and you don't have to use no matter what, provided you are willing to fulfill some conditions. That speaker that night caught my attention. He went on to say, this is the only club you can be a member of where the worse off you are when you get here, better off your chances of staying. And I got the message of hope from the first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous they took me to. He described to me what I suffer from. Dude did it in a strange way. Dude was talking about me, talking about himself. I had never seen anything like it. I still never see anything like it. It's what we do. It's what we do. It's our charge. It's what we do in Alcoholics Anonymous. One drunk talking to another. And I'm going to share some things about me. You know, when you get Ralph White, I would like to tell you I'm the speaker that's not going to share a whole bunch of opinions. I try to minimize them. I'm going to like to tell you, everything I share with you is going to come out the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous. But I could come up in here and read the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous. That's all you're going to get. Everything I know about recovery comes through the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's filtered through my experience, and you're going to get my experience. As you know. And I'm going to share something with you that's not in the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's in the Big Book of Ralph White's experience. I'm going to share with you some anatomical facts about a guy named Ralph that I learned when I was out there. I learned that when my behind is raw, my ears open and my mouth closes. When my behind starts healing, my mouth starts running and my ears start closing. Thank God I was tenderized well enough, long enough that last time I came back, I heard the music. I heard the music, and I started sitting in the front. Started sitting in the front of the meeting, dude was talking, and he was sharing, and seemed like he was talking directly to me. I was taking it personal, but in a real good way. Dude was saying there's something physically different about me, and seemed like he invited me to diagnose myself. Seemed like he said, Ralph, don't take my word for it. How many times did you say, I'm just going to spend 20? What happened? Whole paycheck. How many times did you say, I'm going to just stop off at happy hour? What happened? Whole paycheck. How many times did you say, I'm going to stop off over here at my boy Joe's house for a minute? What happened? Whole paycheck. Ralph, did it happen once? Did it happen twice? If your name is Ralph, every 2 weeks from 1979, 1985, whole paycheck. My experience, not my sponsors, not yours, not the oldest old-timer in the room. My experience abundantly confirms for me when I take one of anything, no matter where I have to go, what I have to do, who I have to see, no matter how great the wish or the necessity, my body takes over and I got to have another. Okay, smart guy, if it's just my body, how do you explain stone sober? My car seemed to drive to the LIQ on payday. Second part of this disease, the obsession that somehow, someday, I will be able to control and enjoy this magic potion I discovered. Somebody help me with that anyway. Where's this control and enjoy coming from? Check this out. Anytime I was controlling, I wasn't enjoying. Anytime I was enjoying, I damn sure wasn't controlling. I can't drink because of my body. I cannot. My mind refuses to accept that fact. I'm powerless. Third part of this disease, spiritual malady. 12 and 12 describes it as a soul sickness. And in the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous, it says, Ralph, if you work on the spiritual, the mental, and physical are straightened out, that's what we do. Don't get scared. That's what we do. Don't get scared. I know what somebody is sitting out there thinking if you anything like me. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, you kind of had me. I kind of like that. The worse off you are when you get here, the better. But now you're getting ready to hit me in the G word. I'm not feeling that. Didn't come up in here for that. I just came up in here to get the gorilla off my back. Y'all going to come up here with this other stuff. You can dress it up any way you want. Spirit of the universe, good orderly direction. You can call it all that. But I know what you're trying to say, and I ain't feeling that, and I didn't come here for that. Yeah, with your 31 years, the God word just slides out your mouth, but you don't know me. Check this out. I did not come up in here walking toward the light. I came up in here running from the fire. And if your ass is on fire, this is the place for you to be too. And I did not know, So I came up in here not knowing what I was in for, man. I came up in here not knowing what it is that we really do. Now, I'm not knocking physical sobriety, don't get me wrong. If you just don't drink and you just don't use, you might stop going to jail on the weekends. If you just don't drink and you just don't use, you might make it home with a whole paycheck. If you just don't drink and you just don't use, you might make it home, you might make it to work on Monday morning. But what this program has to offer is so much more than that. What this program is really about is about obtaining and maintaining access to a source of power that does for me what I can't do for myself. What this program is really about is about obtaining and maintaining access to a source of power that can do anything but fail. What this program is really about, with a face on it, let's take a selfie. You want to see what Alcoholics Anonymous is about right now? What this program is really about, take a look around this room. What this program is really about is about taking people like us, drunks and boosters and convicts and con artists, failures as parents, failures as kids, broken down pieces of men and women who don't have dreams and goals and hopes anymore. This program takes people like us, and like Bo said, it sticks one hand in your hand and the other hand in God's hand, and we pick up our beds, and we walk out of these rooms as mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, sons, daughters, employees, employers, role models in our community. This program is about growth. This program is about change. If it's going to be any changes made in my life, it begins and it ends with me. I'm a guy that's real big on, I just love this thing. I was on a panel with a guy, 55 years sober at the time. And we were doing a Q&A. And they asked, and Tom, I got the question, Tom, in your 55 years, what's the most important thing you found in your recovery? And I expected him to say something long and flowery, and he said one word. He said enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. If it's supposed to be a program of attraction, sponsors, old time, make it attractive. Be up here, there ain't no easier stuff. No, this is the easier, softer way. If this program wasn't fun, you'd have another speaker up in here tonight. I'm dead serious about recovery, but I'm seldom serious in recovery. If you ain't laughing in this program, you ain't taking this program serious enough. I'm going to share some things with you that I want you to put in your simple kit of spiritual tools, especially the new ladies in here. And I'm going to assume there's some new men and women in here. I'm going to share some things to put in your simple kit of spiritual tools that you won't get from the Big Book Alcoholics Anonymous, but you'll get from most of us who have been doing on this path before you. First thing you want to do, get a sobriety date. If you ain't got one, you don't have one. Somebody walk up to you, what's your sobriety? You be, you ain't got one. Protect it, respect it, grow it. Get a sobriety date. Then get a home group. It's a home group. Home group is it's somewhat like a Cheers bar, somewhere you go where everybody know your name. In a home group. Then get a sponsor. These days, sometimes, and I'm not making light of sponsorship, I love the fact that people here, stress the importance of sponsorship. The speakers did, the panel did, and sometimes I think, we get a sponsor who has a sponsor who's working on, and a lot of times that's a lot of interviewing techniques for a new person, and I'm not making light of it, but this is what get a sponsor. Because check this out, there's power in the transaction. There's power in the conversation. Because we see you when you come up in here, new guy. We know you. I'm a grown-ass man, can't tell me nothing. We know that's why you up in here, There's power in help me. There's power in the humility of I don't know. Get a sponsor. Sponsor may change. Get a sponsor. Then get a road dog. Road dog is a little different than your sponsor. Your sponsor may be further down the line from you. Initially, your sponsor probably ain't going to be running with you. That might develop over time. But your sponsor, plus, when you knew, you kind of come correct with your sponsor. No, sir, I'm not looking at girls at the meeting. But with your road dog, you'd be like, man, did you see them honeys at that meeting? We going back to that meeting. And, and that's who you talk about your sponsor with. You talk about them with your dog, So you get a road dog, man. I'm telling you, if this thing wasn't fun, you'd have a different speaker. My boy Strange, my brother Ron, we've been on this path for 31 years, and we've been hitting it, and we've been doing it, And if this thing wasn't fun, you'd have a different speaker up in here, I share with you guys. People always ask me a couple of things, and I miss them most of the time because I don't know where I'm going when we talk, because we just talking. We just talking. This is my fellowship, and I came to you to talk to you about, several things. And one of them is the things that I found since I've been sober. Now, if you're sitting in this room right now, we got a broad third tradition. We got a broad third tradition. And our third tradition says the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. Big umbrella, can't nobody kick you out. On the team. The minute you say it, you own it. You ain't got to make the team. Matter of fact, you already auditioned. That's done. You ain't got to go through no more auditions and the rest. The minute you say, I got a desire, I'm on the team. Can't nobody kick me off. That is a hell of a broad umbrella for Alcoholics Anonymous, and I love it. But check this out. Everybody that's on the team ain't in the game. Put me in the game. Put me in the goddamn game. Now, I'm not knocking spectators. I'm not knocking bench warmers. We need them. You know, I'm not even knocking haters. I'm not even knocking the people who commentate on the game and think that puts them in there. But put me in the game. Well, Ralph, Mr. Speaker, what are you talking about? What is this put me in the game? I got on my knees with about 16 months of recovery. I said, I'm turning myself in. You know, I'm tired of being the captain of my ship. I'm tired of wrecking. I'm tired of doing it. I got on my knees with a group of people, and I said, God, I offer myself to you. Do something with me. Do something with this piece of man, just like this. It blows me away. If I'd have walked up to I'm about 16 months sober. I'm not working yet. I ain't got no money. I'm staying at my mama's house. I am not a vision for you. If I'd have walked up to any woman in here with 16 months of recovery and said, baby, I offer myself to you, you'd have been like, dude, keep it moving. But the thing I like about this power, is he didn't tell me that. He didn't tell me keep it moving. He didn't say you got to come right to get right in alcoholism. Just like you are. You know, still lying, get on your knees. Still hoeing, get on your knees. Still tricking, get on your knees. Still stealing, get on your knees. Just like that. And he did something with me. He did something with me. Put me in the game. Put me in. I came to you and that 2-year-old baby whose piggy bank I was going in. She's 35 years old. 4 years ago, I walked down the aisle. The Christmas before that, a young man came to me and asked me for my daughter's hand. Oh, stop. And we walked down the aisle January the 18th, 4 years ago. We walking down the aisle, music's playing, rain's on my arm, and we talking, walking down the aisle. And she said, Dad, this is the happiest day of my life. I'm sad about one thing. I said, what's that, baby? She said, this is the last day I'll ever be Rain White, but I'll always be Daddy's girl. Put me in the game. Put me in. You saw me yesterday walking around here with a Boston University shirt on. My daughter, last May, year ago this month, we down in Boston about 15 deep. About 15 deep. My baby girl was graduating from Boston University. I remember when she was a sophomore moving out the dorms, and we went to move her in her own crib. I went down to Boston, and my brother stays there, and we moved them in. I want you to have your own moments. I want you to have them. There's people in here that can share about when grace comes calling, and you'll know it by name. And I'm standing up there, and we're moving the kids in, and I had to step in the bathroom, fellas. And I'm not a crying man, but I am. You know, and I went in the bathroom because it just hit me. We moving them in, and the other parents are moving them, and I just had to take a break and go in the bathroom. Because this is what dads do. They don't go in the piggy bank. They move their little girls into their first crib. Put me in. Put me in the game. My mom is 88 years old. I have no scientific evidence to prove it, but she had 6 boys that were in her house killing her. And the 4 that needed to make it to you made it to you. The 4 that needed to make it to you made it to you. And I don't have no evidence. But it's been over 30 years for them. And my mom is still alive and put me in the game. Put me in. You know, when you go to Vegas sometime, if you go to Vegas, and you guys have gambling out here too, and I would play blackjack if I was ever at the tables, and I ain't been in a long time. But sometimes you be at the blackjack table and you be playing, you put your little $5 chip in, you might double down and have 10, you might put 25 if you up, and sometimes somebody will pass by your table, and they'll just stop just about and put all their chips down, bam, and you be like, woohoo, he putting all his chips down, because I'm not putting all mine down, because what? I might lose. But October 11, 1986, when I got on my knees 16, I put all my chips in. I got all in Alcoholics Anonymous, because check this out. I'm playing with house money. Every chip I got, you gave it to me. Every chip I got, you gave it to me. Every chip I got, you gave it to me. And the thing about the way God does his thing, I call it the tyranny of the blessings. Sometimes I get so concerned with maintaining the blessings, I forget to maintain the relationship with the one that gave them to me. I get so stuck on that. I heard a speaker share at a conference. She said, Ralph, don't let the life that AA gave you get in the way of your AA life. Whew. I had my third valley, 22 years sober. Third valley. Lost all my money. Thought they needed a recovery home for old timers. Me and some people, real estate market, I had left the business I was in, and I had been doing real estate and had been doing real good. Lost my money, lost a 20-year marriage, lost my house, lost it in front of everybody, because that's what I do. I live out loud. You guys gave me a transparent life. That's what I do. You'll find your own walk on this path. And as a result of this, so I'm doing the thing, and I learned some things in the valley. I love you guys talking about the valley. I learned you can grow in the valley. I learned you can grow wherever you plant it. I'm learning I'm not my stuff. I learned sometimes you're going to have to be the message you carry, and if the message you carry is that God can handle anything, sometimes you're going to have something for him to handle. I got on my knees a long time ago, like I told you. And I said, take away my difficulties, the victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. That's how I'm useful in Alcoholics Anonymous. 4 phases. Prayer life matches, and the 4 phases of my prayer life matches probably the 4 phases of my life in Alcoholics Anonymous. Phase 1, all of us get here on some variation of that. Help me. Get here on a variation of that prayer. Help me. Phase 2, give me, grant me peace. I go, grant me this in phase 2. Phase 3, grow me. Enlarge and perfect my spiritual life through self-sacrifice and working with others. Our next, job is to grow and understand. Grow me. Phase 4, highest phase, use me. Use me. I've been useful. I've been useful. I've been more useful through the things I went through. Ain't nobody trying to hear about you made this kind of money and somebody need to know, you can get divorced with 20 and you ain't got a drink. Somebody need to know the IRS can come after you for $80,000 and you ain't got a drink. Somebody need to know that you can lose all your money in front of it and you ain't got a drink. I have lost a lot of things in Alcoholics Anonymous, I thought. I lost my money, I lost, and sometimes you'll lose hope. Sometimes you'll lose your way. Sometimes you lose a lot of things, and you run out of money, you run out of friends, and I was listening to a tape of this old guy named Franklin Williams. And Franklin Williams said one time, he said, I can't run out of God. I can't run out of God. It's been my experience. He don't never tell us, boy, I don't know about you guys, and I ain't here to talk about what other people get, but seem like he only has a couple of answers for me. When you're in a dark place, and somebody might be in a dark place, and my sponsor always says, is it all right now? Not next week, not while this long-winded speaker is running his mouth. No, is it all right now? And every right now kept being all right. And sometimes I'm led to say, Ralph, what make you think God saved you from the cesspool to let you drown in the bathtub? Seem like he only have a couple of answers for me. Yes, not now, or I got something better for you. Somebody in here right now seem like we ain't broke, we just in between money if you're going through something like that. Don't even trip. Yes, right now, or he got something better for me. I was in O'Hare Airport. Last story about when I was in this valley. I don't know why I'm in the valley so long tonight, but somebody might be in it. I was in O'Hare Airport. And I was going to talk at a deal on the 3rd step. Called my college roommate. I heard he had lost his father. Called to offer him condolences. So we talking. It was when I was at the bottom of this valley. And my roommate is talking to me. He ain't lost nothing. I learned some stuff. It's easy for you to be okay when I'm okay. But don't be okay when I'm not. I didn't know that about me. Some stuff was going on, And so I'm talking to my roommate, and he telling me, I still got all my properties. I still got my money. I just moved my daughter in. She broke up with her husband. She's staying in my guest house. And every time dude was talking to me, it was cutting me like a knife. It was cutting me like a knife. A feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. And I hung up the phone, and I'm in O'Hare Airport, and I'm crying. I'm crying. I can't feel God. I can't pray. I don't even want to. If one of you had walked through the airport right then talking about this too shall pass, I would have socked you in the face. Sometimes you get so low in alcoholism, you don't even want to hear it. I'm not even trying to hear that spiritual. And I'm not trying to, but I got trained feet. That's why you train your feet in Alcoholics Anonymous. The disease centers in my thinking, recovery centers in your feet. Train your feet. So I have trained feet. This is what I do in every situation. I call my sponsor, or I call a close-mouth friend. I couldn't reach my sponsor, I call my boy Stan J at home. I'm going to get this one to you. You know how sometimes you don't have no cell reception? And these days, if I don't have no cell reception, I don't have no memory of anybody's phone number. It was like that with God. I'm going to tell you the places where there's no grace reception. Too much resentment, no grace reception. Too much fear, no grace reception. Too much self-pity, no grace reception. Don't have them all together, no grace reception at all. I'm not feeling nothing. I can't talk, I can't pray, I can't nothing, but I call my boy. I'm crying on the phone. Here's a freebie. When you get to the dead zone like that, I call my boy on the phone. Make sure you call somebody who's connected. And while we were talking, he three-wayed me. God got on the line. Guarantee you it'll happen anytime two or more of us get together. He'll get on the line. That's why when it's an event like this and we all together like this, you can feel him. If you get real quiet, he's on the line. He's on the line. Done a lot of stuff in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I never left you. I'm better with you than I am by myself. I come to these places, man, because I get reminded. Because what you ask us to do really is beyond our scope. And when I say us, it's anybody that gets up here and speaks. Bo and Shirley this weekend, Brett, me, anytime you go out. What we're really tasked with is something that we are ill-equipped to do. You ask us to give voice to that for which there is no voice. You can't put in words the spiritual experience. I got a boy, my boy Strange says, you can't describe the taste of a banana. And you can't put words to this thing of ours. You can't put words to when you come from where I come from and you the one walking them down the aisle. You can't give it words. When you giving them their first driving lesson, you can't give it words. To when you showing up in the delivery room for your grands, you can't give it words. But we do the best we can because language is all we have. Words are our currency of communication. So we do the best we can. And when you get a speaker out here, what we try to do, we describe how that banana tastes when we bite into it. And we try to make it so tantalizing and so delicious you want to get your own banana. I like this deal you guys have. Because when I came in, I saw a bunch of kids outside. You don't see that at a lot of conferences. And the number of kids against the number of people in here is amazing. And Bo and Shirley talked about this family recovery. And maybe it's just me. But the longer I'm around, the more I realize what is really going on in this room. And there's some unseen stuff that's going on in this room right now, too. Ladies, you're not going to come here for the ripples. That's not why we come. But I guarantee you that's why you'll stay. Because there are ripples. There are ripples that take place as a result of me being sober. There's stuff going on. Because when you see me, make no mistake, when you see me, there's a 4-year-old little boy, my first biological grandson. He's right here. And if it wasn't for you, I would have missed that one. When you see me, if you look real close, there's an 88-year-old lady. There's a 23-year-old girl that the world would not know. I don't know how the world would go. I can't imagine the world not knowing River White. That's you. You did that. When you see me, I see Sissy. I see. I saw Jacob. When you see me, when I see you, it's not just these seats that's filled up. As a result of us being here on Saturday night, it's some stuff going on. There's a little girl and but there's some stuff going on. And I don't want to miss it. So it's way more than just what's taking place in here right now. When you walked in from Nicole, didn't even know. I don't know how many little boys and little girls I'm looking out on that wouldn't even be in this world if it wasn't for Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know how many little boys and little girls wouldn't have a stand-up mom and dad if it wasn't for Alcoholics Anonymous. Every time I go to a meeting, me and you, we're doing it right now. I get to participate in some little boy or some little girl getting ready to have mama come home. Every time I go to a meeting, me and you, we're doing it right now. I get to participate in some family getting ready to have daddy come back. Every time I go to a meeting, me and you, we're doing it right now. I get to participate in some man or some woman getting ready to have a hell of a mate in their life. Me and you, we're doing it right now. Every time I go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, I get to participate in some employer that I don't know and could care less about getting ready to have a hell of an employee enter the workplace. Every time I go to a meeting, who wouldn't want to be part of a fellowship like that? I've always wanted to do something significant. I've always wanted to do something important. I can think of nothing more significant. I can think of nothing more important than being a participating member of the life-saving, life-changing experience that is Alcoholics Anonymous. Whenever anybody, anywhere reaches out for help, I want the hand aid to be there. For that, I'm responsible. I take it real serious. You'll never hear Ralph Weiss say, I don't know why I'm sober. I know exactly why I'm sober. I get a blessing so that I can be a blessing. Recovery for me is a gift from God. What I do with my recovery, my gift to God. My name is Ralph White. I am an alcoholic.